Welcome to Football is Nice. I'm really pleased with the theme tune, are you?
It's great, yeah. My friend Lorenzo did a great job.
Props to Lorenzo for your production and composition. We've had some lovely reviews. A lot of people, like your next door neighbour reviewed it.
I know, I saw that, yeah. When I saw her during the week, she said, I've listened to your show, and then she doesn't give compliments really. And then I said, have you reviewed it? Have you given it any stars? And she said, I have, and I'm not going to reveal how many. So
It's 5.
It is 5.
And she's called Em from next door. Hello,
Yeah.
Em. Thank you for reviewing it. And thank you, all of you, for listening to Football is Nice. Pass it around. Use the hashtag. Ask us a question. Answer the questions we've asked you. Last week's was a pre-record, so we didn't have any actual... we weren't able to cover what was perhaps the most historic transfers in footballing history.
Yeah.
The transfer of Ronaldo back to Man United.
I also think we started by saying West Ham are top of the league, which by then they were not.
That was always going to be some. Even when I was saying it then, I was thinking they might have been took off the top of the league, even just by virtue of people not accepting it as plausible.
Yeah, I'd started to hope that Premier League fixtures went the way of our podcast so that we could still seem relevant, but sadly, West Ham drew with Palace 2-2.
And Spurs are top of the league.
And
Arsenal are bottom of the league.
I mean, it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting to see that. It's interesting to see that unfold. It was also Harry Kane didn't leave. I wonder if that's embarrassing. I wonder if that's, an awkward situation to still be at Spurs, having taken it as far as he did.
I mean, he's turned it around immediately, hasn't he?
By scoring goals.
By just scoring lots of goals, scoring for England as well. It's kind of brushed over and forgotten about now. Although I think you pointed out at the time that he had a carefully worded tweet, didn't he? About saying, I'll be staying with Spurs this summer.
Summer. Why would you use the word summer instead of foreseeable future? Hasn't Harry Kane learned anything from this fiasco? That you're not in charge of when you leave Spurs.
Yeah.
It's not up to you.
Any season you want to name, it doesn't matter.
You leave Spurs when we say so, mate. It's when you leave Spurs. And what other things did we need to cover? What other big transfers were there?
We need to talk Ronaldo. I mean, there was that crazy day where it looked like Ronaldo was going to City, which was mad, and everyone was up in arms, especially Man United legends, Gary Neville and people like that. And then it also looked like there was going to be a knock-on of potentially Mbappe going to Madrid and Haaland going to PSG. Those transfers didn't happen, but it looked like for a while that it was going to be the craziest transfer day of all time.
Some people burned their Ronaldo shirts.
They did do that.
So that'd be very unfortunate, because you'd have just burned it, and then a few hours later you're on, right, where's that Ronaldo shirt? Because I need that. Oh no, why am I so emotional?
Yeah, although you could just buy a new shirt like you've done.
Today I'm wearing a vintage West Ham top. I feel a bit better about this one because it's Dagenham Motors.
Yeah.
Nice people to do business with. Like I always feel when I'm wearing a betting company, I always feel a bit, because gambling is addictive and bad for you.
Which is what I'm doing.
Is yours that's a gambling company?
Yeah,
is it, Hull?
We've had many a gambling company over the years, as is the way these days.
The problem is that products that are sort of inherently bad for you will spend more money on advertising.
They will.
For the obvious reason that their product is inherently bad for you.
Yeah.
It's the same way that sort of big companies, Shell, whatever, they have to spend a lot of money, like sort of going, look, there's nothing wrong with what we're doing. Don't they?
We sponsor art galleries.
Don't you like art?
We're more about art these days, to be honest.
Shell, art. Do you also do say to well, yeah, but
that's a side business.
What's this seagull's wings all bunged up with?
Art.
That's art, that. Look at it. Doesn't it tell you something about the hypocrisy of the corporate world?
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't it tell you something about the way that art is being used to veil corporate endeavour? Doesn't it?
That's right.
That's my finest piece. I call it Oily Slick Seagull. I've been thinking about Ronaldo a lot. Say this, Gal. Some people say Ronaldo, he's too old. But think about this.
Is your next point going to be he's younger than us?
I don't even dare to think.
No.
Well, I've got a bit of a point about that. It's this. When Ronaldo broke the international goals record for Portugal and took his top off, right? This just happens to me every time he takes his top off. Once I was watching, I think it was Real Madrid won, maybe when they won that fourth final, right? In a row or third in a row. I don't know, it was significant. He seemed very pleased about it, or his 30. I don't know, he was very happy. And he took
like
his top,
4 in 5 years or something.
Something like that, Gal. He took his top off, and I was watching it with my then girlfriend. And I remember feeling, I don't need this from you now, Ronaldo. This relationship is fragile. I don't need this. And I was thinking, Ronaldo's so sort of attractive, or I don't know about attractive as in, I mean beautiful. His body is so beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't think I could be around him. Like, I think I'd spend the whole time feeling full of doubt.
I mean, this does lead me to something that you told me recently about spending time with Joe Wicks.
Also makes me feel full of doubt. I mean, I love Joe Wicks, actually. Joe Wicks is my friend and I adore him. But one of the things I do with Joe Wicks involves us both being in our pants. I'm not prepared to give any more detail than that. And I obviously, as I would with Cristiano Ronaldo, have to feel a sort of a strong sense of I've gone on a diet.
As a result of
Basically.
Ronaldo.
I thought if Ronaldo's
If he's coming back to England, I'm off on a diet.
I need to really make some. Like, it seems impossible. Do you think you could have a body like that?
I don't. I mean, it is
You
one of those.
might be able to.
No,
More. You've got quite a nice body.
mate. I mean, first of all, I don't know when the last time you saw it was. Secondly,
You know perfectly well it was this morning.
it is mad, and especially as Ronaldo just seems to get closer to our age, and you just think, how have you got that body? How's that possible?
I know. I've got a football-related body. He's not getting closer to our age, by the way.
No, I know he's
you
not, but
don't
it
seem to
feels a
understand
bit
how
like it.
time works. Ronaldo, he can't close the He can't press on your actual age. And also, him not pressing is going to be one of the problems at United, as well as the impediment of the development of Mason Greenwood. But say Cristiano Ronaldo, he's right. Riddle me this. We're in a parallel universe where he's called Max Hereford, right? And in this universe, Max Hereford was in the Serie A last year, and he scored more goals than
Anyone.
Lukaku or whatever, and then United go, we're buying Max Hereford. You'd be excited. You wouldn't be saying this Max Hereford is too old.
No, you're right. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That's the caveat to all the news and talk about Ronaldo is he is this age. It doesn't matter. Surely he's going to come to United and he's going to score tons because it's inevitable.
Look, I know that this is, it won't be for the last time today I use a cliche, because it's a cliche to say that age is just a number. But what I mean to say by that is if we're saying that, like sex and gender are on a spectra of variance, which is easy to understand in terms of, you could probably even look at that from a chemical perspective. But certainly then age, because if one 36-year-old is different, I would say Cristiano Ronaldo is likely healthier than I was at 36 and possibly healthier than I've ever been in my life. And possibly even, he's on his own scale, isn't he?
Yeah. It is interesting with footballers and getting older. I was watching Soccer Aid, highlights of Soccer Aid just last night. And there are some players there, obviously Ronaldo's nearing the end of his career, but there are some players who are playing who've Rooney and players like that who've noticeably put on some weight. But there are others, I noticed David James, who's been retired for quite a long time, looks exactly the same.
Does he?
It's unbelievable. It's he just hasn't aged.
He was always healthy and handsome.
Yeah.
Rio probably is still healthy and handsome. But other Ronaldo, he's gone the Ricky Hatton route.
That's right.
Of I'm just having what I want to eat now. I'm sick of that effort the whole time.
I noticed Roberto Carlos has put on some weight. Clarence Seedorf hasn't. So,
Seedorf, he's able to hold back. I suppose it must be how much you lose yourself in sort of the potent mysteries of the game. Now, coming up over the course of this, we'll be talking about forthcoming Premier League matches.
Yep.
I've got all sorts of observations to make that are just about sort of my personal private feelings. David Seaman, former Arsenal, QPR and England goalkeeper, and I'd say strong potential future friend, will be on the show.
Let's hope so.
What are you going to ask him about, mate?
I've got loads of things.
It can't be cliched.
No.
It can't be things he said. Let's try and get him to say stuff he's never said before.
I think that's true. Because, the standard thing, I was talking to my friend about it last night. He said, ask him about the fishing. I said, you're always talking about the fishing. That was a thing, wasn't it? David Seaman likes fishing. So we're not going to talk fishing.
We're not talking fishing, Dave.
Hair, the ponytail people always bring up.
Right, that's this. Hold on, I'm writing this down.
Although
we're not going to not ask Seaman.
Yeah.
We're not asking that. We're not going to make any puerile puns about his surname.
No.
We're not going to talk about the ponytail.
My friend said he looked like Lord Lucan, and to ask him if he was
weird.
Lord
That's
Lucan.
weird.
We could ask him about that.
I think. How can I say you've probably gone too far?
Because
if that's an early question,
I was thinking of entering
say that's
with
the
that.
opener. Say the opening question is, thanks for coming on Football is Nice, David. you look. Well, maybe if we don't say that.
Yeah.
Hello. He answered the phone. We come there. Hello. Are you Lord Lucan? What I think is that would be an unparalleled. Well, not unparalleled in our shared history as professional broadcasters, but it would be an error.
It would be an error. Yeah. It doesn't go well when I take advice from my friend Andy.
No.
There is. I mean, relating to hair, I don't know if this is. He said apparently, when he cut his ponytail for charity.
Did he keep it as one nubbin?
Well, there's the first question.
That's good. Did you keep it as one nubbin?
But also, apparently, it ended talks with L'Oreal and other companies who were teeing him up to be the next Ginola. So he literally lost. It was a bit like the.
I can't believe that that's true, because Ginola, like, no disrespect to David Seaman and his looks, but David Ginola, looking back, was exquisitely attractive.
He really was.
He had a real vibe. It makes you think about charisma. As Quentin Crisp says, charisma is the ability to influence without logic. And when we both watched that thing on iPlayer about like the early days of the Premier League and all of that.
Fever pitch of the rise of the Premier League. Available on BBC iPlayer.
Well, what are you trying to do? All right.
No reason.
Wait a second. You get it at Selco. It's where the trades go. Well, Selco.
Good. Really good.
If you're going to advertise iPlayer, I'm advertising Selco.
Why not?
It's where the trades go.
Good though, wasn't it?
Because Cantona has such potent
This is
charisma.
your link between Ginola and Cantona. Not just the French thing. Obviously, it's the charisma thing as well.
Yeah. I suppose Cantona's charisma was very overt, in your face, aggressive.
Yeah. It wasn't sexy charisma like
not the
Ginola's.
same sort of, like, it was aggressive macho charisma, whereas Ginola's charisma, sexy charisma.
Yeah.
Now Seaman in a L'Oreal advert.
Yeah.
All right. Now how I keep my hair looking lush and he's too sort of jolly. And he's jolly.
He's jolly. He's lovable.
I love him.
I think he's probably up there as most likeable England player. One of top 5, I would say.
Yeah, he's a very likeable. I mean, of course, he's known as safe hands, and he is a safe pair of hands.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't. We won't bring up that quarter-final goal from Ronaldo.
No, we mustn't. Or the Naeem
from the halfway line.
Yeah, exactly.
From the halfway line. We won't bring that up.
No. What about ice? Because he's done lots of things on ice.
I do feel that it's okay to bring that up.
Yeah.
Because he does that with his missus, and he's
right.
married to.
He met her on the ice. Well, he might have met her before getting on the ice. I don't know.
Sure to have been some, like, they don't just shove you out.
But even
put
training,
one hand on each bum cheek and shove David Seaman out onto the ice. Oh my God, I love you.
Well,
he's a Yorkshireman like you.
He is. Yeah. He played.
What do you think about that?
He played for QPR on that plastic pitch.
Oh yeah.
I know that. I mean, again. Do you want to talk about the plastic pitch?
That's an alright thing. Yeah, I think the plastic pitch is good. Gal, I might forget some of these things, and what I don't want to do is panic and go mention any of the things we've said we're not going to mention, all right?
Yeah, okay. Lord Lucan, just going with that. You'll remember that.
That's the thing that's most prominent currently in my mind, right? That's the risk here.
Yeah.
Is that there's a dial tone, the sound of David Seaman picking up, and maybe it going between his ear pods, the Bluetooth sort of switching, right? Yeah. And then me going, and the first thing he'll hear is Lord Lucan, right? And that's not what we want from this. I'd say it's our most high-profile guest. We've had Windass, great success. We've had Zamora, great success. We've had Mark Noble's Answer Machine and Ryan Reynolds' Answer Machine, great successes. All good content, can't be queried. But David Seaman's coming up is going to be the non-cliched interview with David Seaman. Also, I wouldn't mind getting to the emotional truths at the heart of David Seaman.
No, absolutely.
What people will be surprised by in this podcast is we often go deep and poetic. And I'd say I take some of the credit for that. And this is the new jingle to demonstrate when we're looking at the mythic, deeper aspects of the beautiful game.
When the seagulls follow the trawler, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea.
Why are you using that sort of weird dump, like it's like going to be in the local news?
It's not very poetic.
That's the one that Lorenzo provided me with, and I've used it under all of them so far. But do you think we should change it up?
It should be demonstrative of the mood. It should be like that one. Should be like more like them Icelandic people.
Got it.
Sigur Rós.
Okay, I'll ask him.
Or burial. Something like Adam Curtis would use.
No, it's all right. I'll ask Lorenzo to become Sigur Rós.
Could you?
Yeah.
Lorenzo,
you please, Lorenzo?
At least be
Pull
more
your
like
finger out.
Be more like Sigo Ross. If when you're providing us with free, is he charging
Free.
Absolutely
At this stage,
free.
yeah.
Well, add to that insult the injury of I would like it to be better. Free stuff. Now, what talking about? Right. So you've got. Why don't you look at these? We're going to talk about these tweets, and we've also been sent these. Sort of, what do you call this? A mural. At Thomas Bradshaw has been providing these sort of cartoon montages of the content of the show. Have a look at them. There, we've tweeted them. He tweets these beautiful images of Gareth and I, both of whom I think he portrays as being a bit fatter than we actually are, generally speaking, don't you? And there are little tableaus of moments in the show. Yeah. Kevin De Bruyne crying and playing with his lit mobile phone. We talked about that. Hoover bag shoes of Pep Guardiola, which he's not quite represented correctly because I mean the whole contents of a Hoover bag rather than the bags themselves.
Well, you would have seen them explode potentially in the drawing.
That he's like we've just. The thing is with a drawing is it's one moment in time,
absolutely,
as Whitney Houston would have said, and it's just that moment. It's not all moments. Gary Lineker, I think, is particularly good.
It is,
and we've also got David Squires providing. There's no shortage of people illustrating stuff, is there, for this show?
No, there's even Dean Windass with a saxophone, which I assume it is, which I think relates to a pun of mine, which was Dean Wind Instrument. So. Which I was very pleased with. A friend of mine told me it wasn't a very good pun, but it's now in cartoon form.
When are your puns ever good, Gal? I mean, exactly. but the fact is, he's really captured some of the intricacies of our previous episodes. Now, mate? What are some of the podcasts I asked about interesting chants off the back of your experience at Charlton? I listened back to this show and I enjoy it.
I did a lot.
Like when. You did a lot. Well, enjoy it a lot.
I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah.
Still not reviewed it though, have you? I listen back to it and I enjoy it, and I feel very relaxed when I'm listening to this.
Yeah,
show.
Me too.
It makes a nice change because when we're watching our YouTube content and we're like sort of saying, right, this pharmaceutical company is coming. I listen to that. I'm like, oh god, man, we're going to be killed.
Yeah.
Like but listen to
Fraught
this. I'm
with
like,
tension, isn't
we're
it?
not going to be killed.
No.
For this.
For this.
Who kills someone who's just having a nice chat
Absolutely
about football
not.
chants? Nobody.
Do you want some football chants then? So obviously a huge portion of these, even though I think you specified in your tweet that
not be disgusting or rude.
Exactly. Most of them were
disgusting or rude because that's what it brings to the surface, isn't it? The anonymity of the mob liberates the shadow.
Yep.
When the seagulls follow the trot, you see?
It does work.
Yeah.
No, there's some lovely ones. So I've had to go with maybe not quite as entertaining, but they are at least clean.
Are you able to euphemistically navigate your way through some of the disgusting ones, or are they so complex and disgusting?
I've picked some out. So this is a quite gentle one, and actually this came up with lots of teams or sets of fans of teams that were both getting relegated in the same season. So this one was for Newcastle Sunderland. Random Stuff Reviewed says Sunderland win a relegation zone and hosting Newcastle, who are struggling for a win. And with only a few points above Sunderland, Newcastle fans started the classic going down, going down, going down chant, to which Sunderland fans replied, so are we, so are we, so are we. Lovely.
That's very funny. That's witty.
Witty.
It's lovely to see wit en masse, isn't it?
It really is.
Mad cow, England, Germany. You're pointing at David Seaman.
2 minutes, wow.
What are you saying, Jen? You've got a microphone. You're able to... Well, that's... a blot of professionalism.
I'll chuck a few more at you now before Seaman. So Ryan Games says player for Shrewsbury Town FC called John Lewis, and his name is a shop. His name is a shop. His name's John Lewis. His name is a shop. Simple as that. Some of them are simple.
Because someone's just made the observation that John Lewis is indeed a shop.
Yeah. I love this one. I'm guessing it's Chelsea fans. We'll just call you Dave. We'll just call you Dave. Aspilicueta. We'll just call you Dave. Lovely. Palace fans.
You started that very high. Would you have gone an octave lower?
As soon as I started, I regretted it.
Because you're a musician as well, so you know about pitch.
No, it was the wrong tone to start at. Palace fans to opposing keeper Dean Gherkin. You should have stayed in a burger. Stayed in a burger. You should have stayed in a burger. Stayed in a burger.
That's great. Look at this one from Terry Driscoll of the Ludek McCloskey song, which continued with the away support. Our mate of old Jack told me, long after Ludek McCloskey had left West Ham. Ludek McCloskey probably played during the time that I was wearing this, during the vintage top that I'm wearing today. His name is Ludek McCloskey, come from near Moscow. I play in goal for West Ham. Everyone that I meet go on the street. Oh, big man, what's your name? My name is Ludek McCloskey. It's a sort of a loop.
Fantastic.
I like also, what I most like about that is how reductive it is to say near Moscow. So I think it was sort of like Czech or Latvia, I can't remember, but he weren't Russian.
It's not specific.
It's not that near Moscow.
No,
it's
but
probably as near to like London.
It's a great rhyme, though.
Yeah, you've got to take that, haven't you?
Irish fans singing to the Swedish fans, go home to your sexy wives, go home to your sexy wives.
So who do they sing that to?
Swedish fans,
Go home
to your sexy wives. This
That's
is possibly my favourite. It is on the edge of being not appropriate, but I think we just about get away with it due to the word mildly. Rangers goalkeeper Andy Gorham, brilliant goalkeeper, revealed. So this is from
Gorham of Scotland.
yes.
Rangers.
So this is Andrew Clark. Rangers goalkeeper Andy Gorham revealed he was mildly schizophrenic. Kilmarnock fans started singing, 2 Andy Gorhams. There's only 2 Andy Gorhams. It's on the edge, isn't it?
I love that joke.
It is brilliant.
It's insensitive about mental illness, but if you've actually suffered from schizophrenia, you'd be able to handle a joke because you're like, do you know what? I've seen such darkness within my split and fragmented psyche that someone having a bit of a laugh. It's the least of my.
It is.
It's literally the least of my troubles.
Yeah. I mean, we've
and it's a bit of humour and a bit of wit.
We've gone from Andy Gorham goalkeeper. Do we neatly?
Yeah, why not? Let's like the professional podcast we are, call up David Seaman for our an interview where we'll tell him our plan is to not get caught in the weeds of any cliche content. Sorry about struggling to. I've hurt my ankle, Gail. I hurt my ankle going for a run. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to lose weight because of bloody Ronaldo, and it's swelled up like a punch bag. It all puffed up. It's like a grapefruit on my ankle. Yeah. I've been icing it, but do I then? Someone says don't ice.
It's
do ice. Strap the ice on.
Hello.
Is that you, David Seaman? It's me, Russell Brand.
Hello, Russell Brand. How are you?
Oh, it's so lovely to hear your beautiful, jaunty, jolly voice. Dave, I'll just tell you at the beginning of this that if you want, we're not live, so if you want anything cut out, just tell us.
Okay. Brilliant.
I say that at the beginning because then I think it gives me freedom. Because me and Gareth were just discussing, we were discussing the interview, and we thought we don't ask you things that you've been asked before. So we're gonna try and navigate our way through this in a novel way.
Oh no, I'll have to throw away all the stock answers then.
Yeah, get rid of your stock answers. You're not going to need them. We're going to be delving deep, Dave. I do this podcast with my mate Gareth. He's also from Yorkshire, like you. He's a Hull fan.
Hi, David. Lovely to meet you. It's an honour. It's a real honour. Genuinely.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
Got it.
When you had that ponytail cut off for charity, did you keep it in one bit?
I did. I actually kept it because people would say to me, "Oh, do you want to auction it off for charity again?" You know, and I was like, "Oh, I thought, yeah, that's not a bad idea." Then someone went, "Dave, it's got your DNA in it." So I was like, "Oh no, I think I'll just put it in the drawer at home. Thanks very much."
Because I suppose if someone's got your DNA, you run the risk of down the line someone potentially cloning you. And then you'd be in the awful situation of perhaps being confronted by a sort of a literal doppelganger of yourself and the complication that could come from that.
Yeah, they might become a better England goalie.
That would be...
Not possible. Not possible. Should we follow up about... I read this, David, that when you cut off that ponytail, or had it cut off, that it ended talks with L'Oreal and other sponsorship deals. Is that true?
No, it's not true. Those talks were never developing anywhere.
I think you'd have been great for L'Oreal. I would have bought it.
I'm just...
I think the only thing that I did was I used to wear, like, when I had the ponytail, I used to put a lot of hair gel in it because, like, when you're playing and that, you know, the last thing you want is, like, little strands of it coming out the ponytail. So I just used to gel it all back. But, yeah, that was the end of all that.
You don't want any, like, I'm imagining when you're under the intense scrutiny and pressure of keeping goal, you don't want wayward hairs or anything in your peripheral vision, do you?
I know, but Russ, what happened before though, Russ, when I was getting it to the ponytail, if you know, like back in 2000, I never had the ponytail.
No.
In Euro 2000, I had it, but it was on its way. And then there was a situation at Highbury when it was just about, it was almost there, like long enough to put in a ponytail. And this ball came over, and as I swung my head round to try and catch it, a big wad of air went straight across my eyes. I totally missed the ball, but the striker behind me left it as well because he thought it was so obviously mine. He couldn't believe I'd missed it, and he missed it too. So I was thinking, hang on a minute, I need to do something about this. And then I went in at Arsenal the next day, or a couple of days later, and I had it up in a ponytail for the first time. You can imagine the stick that I got off the lad.
Yeah, there's going to be some abuse. These days, you'd be able to wear like one of them Alice bands that are made of zigzag, that Grealish wears, a zigzaggy Alice band. Now, I've got some concerns about the hair gel. Do you sweat much when keeping goal, or are you quite laconically leaning around? Because if you sweat and hair gel goes in your eyes, that's horrible.
Exactly. No, a lot of my training was done before the game because I would do a proper warm-up. And then obviously in the game, you know, sometimes you can have nothing to do. You know, with the proper defence that I had in front of me, it was sometimes it was quite easy. You know, and I was just stood there, you know, so you're not always sweating during the game.
Did you ever find yourself, like, during lulls in games, thinking about other stuff? Like your private life or home or like weird, because like, just check this out. You know, I'm a stand-up comedian, right? Sometimes on stage, not often, thank God, but sometimes I'll think it's really weird that I'm doing this right in the middle of it, like happening. I'm like doing like there's thousands of people, and I think, oh, it's weird that you're doing this, and I was like, no, not now, brain. No, it's weird. It's weird. You've got to do this. Shut up. No, brain. I won't be able to talk. Does that ever happen to you in goal? Like the intense pressure of knowing that any mistake will be really punished and high consequence. That so your brain decides to torture you.
No, but the weird one that I did that I can remember was that I was playing in the game, and I can remember seeing all these flies coming out of the grass. You know, and obviously there's been a hatch of something, and I was thinking, oh, I wonder what sort of flies they are. Would I be able to put them on the end of my fishing line?
Because yeah, that's sort of it. It's creepy. It's weird, isn't it? It is always weird when something goes on the pitch that's not meant to, whether it's a balloon, a dog, or that big grasshopper thing that was on Ronaldo in not the last Euros but the one before. It's sort of it because it's a penetration of a very controlled space. Like a football field is like, we understand what the rules are here. So if nature comes on, or a streaker, have you ever been troubled by a streaker?
I have. I was troubled by the famous guy. I can't remember his name though, but he did. He came up to me at Anfield away at Liverpool, and he was like running around, and then he came right up to me, and he obviously got nothing on. He was like total, start bollock. Did
you look, or did you avert your eyes?
No, of course I looked.
Oh, I wonder what kind of penis that is. Oh, like when them flies came up out of the grass.
And I was looking up thinking, oh yeah, obviously I know why you're a streaker now. You want to show that off, don't you?
Oh,
anyway,
probably as a person who's had to appear sort of semi-naked in films and has had the indignity of appearing naked in public when I was a younger, more drugged man, it's always best to prepare for those moments in subtle ways, is what I would say. You know, some sort of, you warmed up before matches, and I imagine the streaker may have warmed up in his own way.
I think also just having the confidence of knowing size and things.
That would be just the loveliest thing to have.
I wonder if streakers do have, bigger endowments.
I think probably, generally speaking, otherwise you've been trained from youth. Keep that under control, Sonny Jim.
Exactly. Leave your undies on.
David Seaman, like sometimes, like when Kasper Schmeichel got that laser shone in his eye in the final, like laser pen. Have you ever been, and like, I don't know if you noticed, I think was it Leeds Everton, like when Calvert-Lewin was taking a penalty, a Leeds fan was rubbing his belly. Like, I wonder if you've ever been successfully distracted by fans.
Well, I'd like to use that as an excuse, but no, I don't think I have actually. I've been like that. The different array of objects that have been thrown at me is quite interesting. As in, I've had a massive yellow dart thrown at me when I was.
Bloody hell! That's actually a weapon.
Yeah, warming up for England against Sweden away. and this yellow dart came flying over my shoulder. I was like, and I was only young then. I was like deputising for Peter Shilton.
Oh my God!
And I couldn't believe it. I was like so shocked, and I just said to the guy that was warming me up, I went, "Can we go into the middle of the pitch and do the warm up, just to keep out of range?" But I've had bottles full of you know what and fireworks and eggs and all sorts thrown at me, but luckily none of them hit me.
What's part of your training then sort of about concentration? Because you must have incredible focus to be able, because I think if someone threw a dart at me, I'd still be talking about it 6 months later to a therapist.
yeah, but you have to, and as a goalkeeper, it's one of the main things that you have to have. You have to have, like really tough mental strength, and concentration levels that are really high, because, like you say, you can easily get distracted.
But is that something you're trained for, or is it like if you didn't have it, then you just don't make the grade?
Yeah, exactly. You get it through experience. Each game, because you're playing every week, most of the time twice a week. It's just something that you gain. And what I used to do is I used to look at the ball wherever it was on the pitch, draw a line from the ball through my chest, and that line should then carry on to the middle of my goal.
Whoa!
Just as a little.
Did someone
game.
tell you that, or did you invent that?
No, I just thought of it. I just thought of and then I can go up and down that line as to how far the ball is away from me. Obviously, when it comes a bit closer, then you just drop back a little bit.
That spirit, that's really mad, because you're sort of envisaging a secondary reality that if you remain in contact with that reality, your focus will not falter. So you can't just for a moment be thinking, oh, bloody hell, there's another dart, there's a bottle of wee-wee, there's hair gel in my eyes. Oh, look at that bloke's massive willy. Like you're all the time, you're imagining that line. That's cool.
Schrodinger's Seaman, something like that.
Yeah, that's what, you have to do that sort of thing, because there's a lot of periods where you're not doing anything as a goalkeeper, so it's so easy to get distracted, and they get distracted by the fans and start enjoying the songs that they're singing or whatever, and it's just something that I did, it just bring me right back to focus.
Did you have a threshold for how many waves you'd do? Like if Seaman gives a wave, Seaman gives a wave. You're like, I'll do one wave, but I'm not doing 10 waves.
Yeah, exactly. No, but when I first joined Arsenal, the previous goalkeeper, John Lukey, he was a big fan's favourite, and I was under pressure taking over from him. And he used to do this thing where the crowd would sing, Lukey, Lukey, do the twist. And he'd do like this little twist. And then as soon as I joined, they were like, do the twist, and the fans will love you. And I was thinking, oh my God.
Oh my God, that's not part of your job to do the twist. Like everyone's got to do the twist. That comes with the position now.
I know.
So what did you do?
The first few games I did it, just try and win the fans off and that, and then I just fired it because I just felt so embarrassed doing it.
Did you have to sort of wiggle? Because I'm imagining a twist, and I'm imagining that it means having your elbows sort of quite stationary, but you're sort of wiggling your bum and hips, which is I don't think that's a good move for a Yorkshireman.
No, it's not a good look. Not for a Yorkshireman.
The fact that, of course, famously, Brian Glanville wrote that amazing book, Goalkeepers Are Different, which, is sort of posited on the notion that the goalkeeper is separate and distinct from the rest of the team, is essentially playing a different game because it's, because of the restrictions of the penalty box, the bit using, I don't know why I'm explaining what a goalkeeper is to you. I imagine you might know things that I don't know, but does that transfer, that sense of separation, to the rest of the relationships in when you're training, when you're in hotels? Is there sort of we are goalkeepers, we're slightly separate? Is there a sense of that?
No, I think what you find, Russ, is that goalkeepers are strong characters. So then they'll be strong characters in the dressing room, and you very rarely find a goalkeeper that's withdrawn or shy. They're always strong mentally. So they deal with different things. Because in a game, we know that even if we have a fantastic game, in the 89th minute you make a mistake, and everyone will remember that mistake. They'll forget everything that you've done the previous 89 minutes. So it's are we different? Because we are, because we choose that sort of career. But it's just something that I loved. Of being a goalkeeper.
Do you evidently. Do you feel that you went into a sort of a psychological space during games? Like, I'll tell you what the background of this question is. David Foster Wallace, the brilliant American writer, wrote this thing about Roger Federer, saying like that he talked about one backhand thing that Federer done, right? And he sort of said like the number of calculations that Federer had to make that shot, like the angle of his wrist, the pressure, the point of the racket that it hits, the positions of his feet, all these things. He says it's sort of it's inconceivable that anyone would be able to do that. And he said that therefore the sort of state, the psychological state you have to be in to be an elite sportsman is almost like separate from what a normal person's experience of reality. He said that's why sports biographies are often disappointing, because people can't ever tell you what it was like, because in a way they weren't there. They were in a kind of zone. Like when I think of some of the like game changing moments that you've contributed internationally and at sort of top flight football, like so when you watch it back, do you have what does it feel like to watch it back, and what's your sort of memory of it when there's sort of like last minute corners and like scrambles in the box? Like what's your memory of those experiences?
Yeah, but that's the thing though. You have to watch it back to realise what you've done, because of all the hours training that you've done before that, they've all contributed to that moment, and it's brilliant to watch it back, because then you realise that your feet are moving that way, your body is stretching, your hand is going out towards the ball. Within that split second, you've calculated whether you can like push the ball, hold the ball, or even hook the ball out. You take my save against Sheffield United, for instance, in the semi-final. I had to like dive backwards and scoop the ball out rather than like flick it. I had to actually scoop it out because I knew it was really close to the line and it was behind me, so I couldn't get the power to knock it forward. Otherwise, I would have knocked it into the goal. But that's all comes through hours and hours of training.
So even something that is as idiosyncratic as that, it has in some way been part of your experience. You've been trained for that sort of sequence of movements almost.
Yeah. And it's obviously it's the better ones that can produce it when it really matters, when it's really close to, a goal.
So much of it must be sort of psychology, I think, with all I think with athletes, that there must be just some people. Did you know that in your various time coming through the game, was there people that you think, that person's got a lot of skills, but they just psychologically are fragile or wayward? Say like the most obvious example of someone who did achieve it, but like Paul Gascoigne, who subsequently become aware that the mental health side of his life and the addiction side of his life. And I've met Paul and stuff, and I wouldn't say anything out of turn that's not pretty much public knowledge. Like there must be countless people who can't manage it to the degree of even performing. Do you encounter that a lot?
Yeah, you encounter that a lot in training. You get players that are brilliant in training, but then come to match day, they can't produce it. They almost freeze, and sometimes they don't even want the ball. And that was like I couldn't get my head around that. How they could be fantastic in training and really impressed, but then get to match day and they'd almost freeze.
Because I
think that's more a mental thing, isn't it?
Totally, because if you think playing a game, that's its own set of skills and attributes, as you've just described with that save from Sheffield United, and then add to that, there's 40,000 people watching. People are afraid. That's a whole different. Of course, it was well discussed in the games behind closed doors last season. That I did sometimes think that West Ham's successful season was in part, although early results this season suggest otherwise, but that it was in part of they're responding well to not having the pressure of people releasing black boards and balloons and saying sack the board and all of that stuff.
Yeah, and it did, and that's why you got all those like really weird performances and results from teams, like especially the team that was travelling away. There's no fans to influence them, so they just went out there and played, and it would be like a training game where there's not that much pressure on at all.
It's nice to think that the fan involvement is therefore significant. If it produces like variables, then obviously is important.
Oh, it's massively important because even when a player does a bad pass, and like a load of the fans will go, way, that has an effect on the player.
Yeah.
His next pass, he knows that they're all watching to see if he messes up the next pass. You know what it's like. The more that they do it, the more the crowd get on his back, and that affects the player. There's no doubt about it.
I remember, do you remember Jason Lee, the Forest player? I'm mates with David Baddiel, and I know Frank a bit, and they got well into doing that pineapple because he had them dreads.
I remember that totally.
I heard David Baddiel, I think it was on one of the shows. He said Stuart Pearce came on, who was at Forest still then, and goes, they thought it was sort of funny and everything. And they said to Stuart Pearce, "Oh, is there any message from Jason Lee?" And Stuart Pearce went, "Yeah, he's gonna fucking kill you." Like he didn't think it was at all funny.
Yeah.
He said that it really got to him. It is it's weird, isn't it? Because now mental health's become much more of a prevalent thing. People are sort of aware of that kind of stuff. The culture around football has radically altered, and you were, I suppose, right there in that that sort of Premier League transitional sort of moment when football went from because when I go up West Ham and that, it's and you meet someone like, I don't know, Phil Parks or Devonshire or all them big your fellow mustachioed long-haired icons. We used to get the tube, we was eating chips, we smoked, all of that. To this new era that's it's dazzling and extraordinary. Was that something you were aware of while you were playing, that the game was changing?
It changed massively, and most of it changed when Arthur Wenger came.
Yeah,
because he changed everything, and then a lot of the clubs in the Premier League just followed. I remember, take Ian Wright for instance. His pre-match meal used to be a fillet steak with a fried egg on top.
Amazing. You'd have such heartburn.
Mine used to be like a ham and cheese omelette with beans and all that sort of stuff. And then Arthur Wenger came in and we were like, no way, you're not having any of that. It's pasta, it's boiled fish or boiled chicken, boiled veg, all this carbohydrate protein stuff. And it worked, to be fair to Arthur.
Yeah.
And everybody changed it. Even down to the point of when on England duty, we would still stick to the Arsenal diet. We'd get the chef to cook us our food. I remember Gary Neville once looking over onto our table. He's like, "What are they eating, Doc? Because it's a team game. We should be on the same as them." he got all the recipe and everything and took it back to Man United.
Oh,
wow.
Espionage. That was the transitional moment. It's like, hang on about, they're having boiled fish. We're all sat here having steak and kidney pies.
It was nothing to do with Cantona.
Hold on, they're not smoking 20 Rothman over at Highbury. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's really brilliant. David, is it true? You got a podcast, or was that a joke?
No, I have got a podcast. I've got my Seaman Says, which I'm looking forward to getting you on, mate.
Come on.
I would love it if you come on.
I would love it. I would love it if you would come on my podcast. Look at this. We use a jingle. You might not be able to hear this.
I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
See that? That's one of our jingles. We'll come on. What do you talk about on your podcast, mate?
Yeah, just obviously the weekend games, and then anything, then chat about who you're supporting and how West Ham are doing and everything like that.
I will come on.
Like a topical, yeah. No, that'll be good fun.
Do I come around your house or do we do it on the phone?
You can do it whatever you want.
That's all right. I can come look at your house and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, there's your house. There's your house. Maybe
we'll
I'll get
rivers.
Yeah, I'd like that. Will I get a souvenir? Can I have a souvenir of some description if I come round your house? I'd love a souvenir.
Ponytail.
I want that bloody ponytail. Next time you see me, I'll have a little squad of goalkeepers all round me, guarding me. Right, look, there comes Senior Seaman. Look at the middle of his abdomen. Do a line between the middle of his abdomen and Russell. Protect Russell at all costs. Oh yeah, my Seaman army. I'm not going to do the pun, Dave. I'm not doing it. I'm too mature.
No.
Also, right now, go on, Gareth. You do
question.
Well, yeah, I think like this is when we were in the podcast. If you listen to this back, you'll see that we discussed how we were going to interview you, and that we didn't want to say stuff that you'd not said before. And I've heard you say loads of stuff. I've never heard you say that thing about drawing the line, your imaginary line thing. That's Buddhist stuff going down. That's high level matrix goalkeeping. But now here are some of the other things we discussed, or one in particular.
Well, we didn't even get to what you used to put in your hair, because I think it was Robbie Savage I heard who said that Vaseline was the thing that holds your hair back the best of all the gels. It was Vaseline. I'd not even.
Oh, really?
Well, obviously you didn't.
It doesn't
use
surprise me that
gel.
Robbie Savage probably has Vaseline on him at all times.
I thought it was interesting because I was reading some things about you, David, and we had Dean Windass on a few weeks ago, and there was a story that I read about you, and I wondered if it was true, that was very similar to something that I read about Dean also. Which was that when you were at Leeds initially, the team that you supported as a boy, you were let go by Eddie Gray, the manager, and apparently he was your favourite player. Is that right?
He was one of them. Obviously, because I was a goalkeeper, so it was David Harvey,
right?
Who was the Leeds goalie then. But Eddie Gray was like a legend for me. Eddie Gray and Peter Lorimer, Hotshot Lorimer, used to call him. And it was just one of the. The worst things that I've had in football was when he told me, we're going to let you go. I was 19, and I was devastated. But luckily, I got a chance down at Peterborough United in the 4th division, and it all took off from there.
Did you get? Can you see now that you changed as a result of your experience at Peterborough? Did you get better? Did something change?
Yeah, I think it was a bit of a wake-up call. Although I didn't know what I was waking up to. You know what I mean? I was 19 and I went straight into Peterborough's first team, and I was playing against men, like well-seasoned professionals. Some of them coming towards the end of their career, some of them just starting. But I had to learn really quickly, about the physical side of goalkeeping. Every time I went up for a cross, there was people trying to hit me and things, and I had to learn quick. But it was a great experience. I was there for 2 years, and then after that, I went to Birmingham and then QPR. It was getting better and better with the more experience that I got.
Did you have any sense then, when you were playing for Peterborough, that you'd go on to be England's second most capped goalkeeper? Or did that just seem like a ridiculous dream?
It was just a dream. You just dream and play for your country. And it was just, it was nice because I got called up to the England under-21 while I was at Peterborough. Which was at that time was massive because Peterborough were 4th division. So I really enjoyed that, and then it just kept progressing. To making my debut in '88 when we played away at Saudi Arabia in a friendly, flew over by Concorde.
Whoa.
Flew over by Concorde, got a Ford XR3i for a year as a sponsorship deal. I was like, wow, this is international football and I love it.
Bring on the steak and eggs.
That's amazing, that's amazing. So was it when you started to get scouts come into Peterborough or whatever, did it change that? Do you feel separate from if you're the best player in a team and it becomes clear that you're able to operate at another level, you're getting international caps even when it's at under 21 level or whatever, does that separate you from your peers?
No, not really, because there's people at different stages of their career within the team. Some are older, some are younger, trying to get better, and you know that, and that stage will come to you at one point. I think you're quite happy for players if they're progressing and then they move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Because you can't. It was 4th division. It was the lowest division of everything. So we had to. You're aware of people wanting to better themselves, but then you're also aware and appreciative of people that have been up there and are now coming down towards the end of their career.
God, there's a sort of a real rhythm to it. Hey, I'll just ask you some relevant current football questions. What's going on at Arsenal, mate? What do you think about that?
Oh, mate. Right. Have you got another hour? It's so frustrating because, Arsenal were, when I was there, we were expecting to win things, and top 4 would be, if we just managed to get in top four, that would be a disappointment. Now it's more of a celebration for Arsenal, so that shows me where we're at the moment. And the last two Premier League campaigns, we finished 8th, and that's just like, that's not good enough. And at the moment, Arsenal are not good enough, and it's plain to see they've made a lot of signings. Have the signings really going to affect the team? Maybe just. They've got a goalkeeper. Okay, he's a backup goalkeeper that's really good. They signed a couple of defenders, midfielder, and you can't really see the team getting any better than 8th again. And top 4 now would be a great season for us.
It's weird.
Well, it's a long way away.
Because you think, like, sometimes, like, I, as a fan, stay trapped in the idea that certain things are permanent. Like, and particularly Arsenal, never relegated or whatever. You sort of think, but actually teams do drop out of that elite zone. And this is, like, that's what it kind of looks like. It could be like, there's a period where Villa or Leeds were like elite, and then no, they're not. That time has passed, and that it's weird, isn't it? Like you were saying with players, there are rhythms. Someone's coming up, someone's coming down, or whatever, and that sort of it must be weird, isn't it?
You look at Nottingham Forest, European champions, how many times? Won the league so many times, and now really struggling. But I remember Roy Keane saying on TV last season, he went, "No, I think Arsenal will be okay. He said, I think they've got enough to stay up." Which made me laugh at the time, and now it keeps haunting me. In the back of my mind, I keep remembering his quote, and I'm thinking, I hope you are right.
It does. Russell and I watched a show this week, which I've already talked about, called "The Rise of the Premier League" on BBC iPlayer, and Arsenal obviously were a huge part of that kind of reinvention of the Premier League, and it feels at the moment that of those big established teams, this is the first time it's happening to one of those teams that they've dropped out of being, one of the top 5 teams in the country. Do you think? I mean, obviously, money's played a huge part in it. You look at Man City, Chelsea, teams like that, Manchester United, because of the kind of resources they have available to them. Is that ultimately the reason why this has happened to Arsenal, that they just haven't had the finances? Obviously, Wenger made them tons of money, saved them loads of money, had that incredible transfer policy. Will it just take money to get Arsenal back, or is it much more complex than that?
It will take money, because they need to attract bigger and better players, and that's what's happening at the moment. That's why they've dropped out of the top 4 / top 5. Because the bigger players want to go to Manchester, Liverpool, or Chelsea. Because they're teams that they're paying the money, they're paying the transfer fees, and their wage structure attracts the bigger players. And at the moment, Arsenal aren't doing that. They've always been known as having a certain wage structure, but that was acceptable because we used to be winning things. We would be winning the league or the cups or the odd European trophy. But now that's stopped. That's why it's going to be so difficult for Arsenal to attract better players, and that's why they're going down the path of developing the youth players and buying in players that aren't known. They need to prove themselves yet again. At Arsenal's level. But Arsene Wenger was brilliant at that, but he had an experienced squad. He just added the young players to that. At the moment, Arsenal haven't got that experienced squad. That squad that's got winners in there.
It feels like Arsene Wenger was the last kind of revolution to happen in top flight football in this country, in that he, as you say, with those foreign signings, mixing youth as well in with experience, the last time that kind of thing happened, where someone came in and transformed the game, you mentioned earlier about diets and things like that. Other than that, really, the only thing to have happened is that teams have injected tons more money into their squads. I wonder what the next kind of revolution will look like, because there will be one, and hopefully it won't just be tied up in how much money clubs spend. Don't
you think that there's a case that Guardiola, even though City had won titles, like the Wenger era weren't that long after George Graham, was it? And even though it was a significant evolution, is what happened? Do you think that, David, that what happened in City is comparable comparable, or do you think that there are so many economic factors at play that City's progress is somewhat certain?
I don't. When Pep came, he didn't change it as much as what Arsene Wenger did. He didn't change the whole outlook on football at Arsenal. He changed what the Pep has done. He's brought it undoubtable that his coaching technique is just brilliant. You know, and he's got that. And you know, it's okay buying a load of players, but you've got to then coach them and make them play in a certain way. And Pep's got his way. And that's what players like. Players want to go and play for Pep. You know, so that's a big part of the battle done. And then when your club are able to sign the biggest and best players, then it really helps.
All right, mate. Well, we should wrap up now, and I'm going to come on your podcast. We didn't even get to the bit where one of you, Gareth's mates, said that, is David Seaman Lord Lucan? Yeah. Which was the stupidest remark that we wisely avoided to the very, very end of the interview. We'll definitely come on. Well, first,
he's got up on a drink with that man, does he?
Nice. I'm glad you've got a reference for that. Dave, thanks, mate. I'll definitely come on your podcast when you want. And brilliant, thank you very much for coming on here and being such good value. The thing that is going to stay with me is that thing of that line between the centre of the ball, the centre of the goal, and the centre of your chest. That's sort of poetic and brilliant. And goalkeepers should be taught that, I feel. That's my insight as a man who's got. Well, my only experience of football is as a goalkeeper because I wasn't allowed to be an outfield player. But but I think that should be rudimentary, mandatory training. Dave, thanks, man.
Exactly, brilliant. Cheers, guys.
Thanks so much,
Speak
David.
to you soon. Cheers, mate.
Good,
bye.
Good stuff, mate. All right, take care, mate. Bye.
Ta-ta. Bye.
Cheers, bye.
Bye. Oh, David Seaman is nice.
Oh, I can't believe I spoke to David Seaman.
It was really good, wasn't it, speaking to David Seaman? He's relaxed and nice, isn't he?
Yeah, he's exactly like you expect him to be.
He's jolly. He's a good uncle, Uncle Dave.
Yeah.
Uncle Dave's coming round for Christmas. He's got a lovely jumper on. Let's all sit by him.
Yeah, I would.
What about he lives in this sort of like he's a geometric matrix of his own devising?
I know. I mean, yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, when you hear those little insights from footballers? It's you want to get those, and that is what you did, Russ. You said it wouldn't be like every other interview, and you were right. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it was both of us, Gal, but we found that moment. I would say like that.
There was a moment when I mentioned Schrodinger's cat or Schrodinger's seaman. I don't think that went down too well.
The problem is with Schrodinger's cat is as you know, the operating idea behind that is that two or numerous or innumerable realities are simultaneously possible until the moment where the box is opened and the cat is either alive or dead, or that at some point a wave collapses into a particle. At some point a particle becomes a wave. Now it's quantum physics, so it's therefore can't be understood. So like if you don't understand, I don't understand. And what they say about quantum physics, if you think you've understood it, then you really haven't understood it. So at least I'm closer than some people to understanding it. Now, I didn't see how it was like Schrodinger's cat.
Because you were talking about the two realities. That's exactly what you were
the reality of the game that's happening.
The game being there and the potential of the ball being in the back of the net. So, that's how I got to that.
Schrodinger's Seaman.
I mean, it doesn't work.
Seaman's cat. I understand. It's like because I suppose what was significant is that he was continually not allowing his focus or his primary duty to diminish in his mind. He was continually present with that, and that's what I think we got there was a window into someone that was thinking differently. Yeah,
and it must have been very difficult. He said, didn't he? He said that with that defence that he had in front. I mean, probably if not the greatest defence of all time, one of certainly. And it must have been you must have had huge parts of games where
various
he wasn't
times.
doing
Bold,
anything.
Adams, Dixon, Winterburn, Keown,
Campbell.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Just generation after generation, wasn't it?
Great defenders.
Yeah.
Great defenders and good solid drinkers. good honest to God alcoholics throughout the team.
It's so fascinating, that transition, isn't it, between and that was the focus of the documentary on BBC iPlayer.
Bloody hell. I've never known anyone
I'm now doing it just as a thing. But that transition between old football and modern football was then, wasn't it? And Wenger had a massive part to play in that. It's so interesting.
I'm wondering if anyone had such a, as you said, like, has anyone ever had such a seismic impact on the sort of overall philosophy of the game? And it seems unlikely that in modern history, it's probably like people like Herb Chapman or Matt Busby
Shankly.
or people were like, hang on a minute, we could be using the wings. Right, everyone, spread out. Wait a second.
Did you? I know you did watch or listen to the Roy Keane Walk with Gary Neville.
I loved that.
It was great, wasn't it?
I love Roy Keane. Even when he mentioned Roy Keane, I think I really want to get Roy Keane on. Because I like it when Roy Keane says, no, we don't have a manager for the social media man. Everything he says, I loved. Like, everything he says, he didn't want to swap shirts with people. He won't ask people for... He's like, I love Roy Keane and I want him to love me. That's the thing. It's a high-risk game. Yeah. Because you don't want Roy to sort of... He's the sort of person who could possibly be quite rejecting.
Yeah, he was so honest. It was, again, the kind of insight that you get into a player who, when you're watching them, just seemed kind of robotic in kind of his ability of tackling, and he was obviously an immense player. And to see him open up about some of these things and be so honest and funny as always, he's extremely funny, isn't he? It's really brilliant. There's one bit where he, do you remember where he talked about Peter Schmeichel being overrated?
He's overrated. Yeah, he did, didn't he? He said he was
Gary
really
Neville
good, but he was overrated.
Amazed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not an easy person to get along with, I wouldn't imagine, Roy Keane. 'Cause he's like, I suppose he had that bit of his early career where we were drinking and like rabble-rousing a bit, because he was one of those transitional figures,
he was.
1 foot in each camp of that
And he was
pre-era.
extremist about it, wasn't he? Because he went from drinking, a lot to cutting it out completely. Then he went down to something like 4% body fat.
Yeah, what about that? And he was cold all the time. Yeah. It was cold on the football field.
He said he'd go home and his mum would tell him to eat.
You've got to eat something.
Just got to eat some proper food.
Yeah.
But there was a bit that I was listening to this morning where there was 50 questions and Gary Neville asked him...
50? Oh, he didn't like the idea for 50 was too many, didn't he?
And then he said toothbrush colour, which doesn't seem like one of the 50 that I would put in there. I'll dismiss that. Maybe it might creep into your top 500, but I wouldn't stick it. And Roy Keane said... I've got one of the electric ones. And then you thought that was the end of it, and then he went blue and white. Still gave the colour.
I suppose he had his blue little rim around the bottom of the heads. He changed the heads, but the body had a toothbrush. It keeps the same. Yeah, it was. I like it when Gary Neville said, "This is the first time you've been like walking your dogs and been voluntarily filmed," because it was almost he stormed off or somewhere. But when Roy Keane described his various storm offs, the other was on Roy's side. Yeah. Like, it seems like they didn't even have balls, Gary. When they turned up to train for Ireland. Now, Jenny, you're an Irish person.
I was annoyed.
Did you see it?
When they were playing and he went home.
He's the best player.
I was
you annoyed with Roy?
Yeah, I was like, come on.
Well, let me tell you, Roy wasn't being respected. That's what it was.
But surely your loyalty to the team goes beyond your ego of being respected.
Hold on. It wasn't his ego. It's his values. And like Roy's values are like, because it is an honourable thing to play for Ireland, you lot should sort out the kit and have the equipment ready. And because they didn't do that, you dishonoured him. He's like a sort of a warrior. And if you don't honour him, he's like, I ain't coming.
What about the rest of the country and everyone who loved him and wanted to see him play?
He would argue, and I mean, I'm speaking for Roy here.
But you could be disrespected and then still rise above it and go and make a point and then still help your team.
I don't think so.
I don't think it helped anyone. They still didn't have balls and all their stuff after he left.
But I think what Roy Keane is saying is that this is the standard. Yeah. And if you don't meet... And I don't think it's about because I'm so great. I think it's because...
I don't think he thinks like that. He's authentic. He reacts in the moment, and he's a honest character, or at least that's how it seems from what you say.
He wouldn't, like, he said that there's a minute where he saw, like, I think when United played Real Madrid, that he saw that Zinedine Zidane was walking his general direction, and he was thinking, shall I change shirts with Zinedine Zidane? But then some voice in his head went,
don't do
no,
that.
Roy. Like, now imagine that, man.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be asking Dave Seaman for a lock of his hair to create an army of David Seamans.
You did.
That's right. That's one of the thousands of ways that I differ from Roy Keane.
Shall we look ahead to the weekend's games?
Let's look ahead to the weekend's games. Is there any other content? Are we making sure that we're housekeeping? Remember, at this weekend, did you know about Rustfest?
Oh, Rustfest, of course.
On the 11th and 12th, that's this Saturday and Sunday, I'm doing these events. Now, I think there's a few tickets left for Sunday. If you want to come to a field, be led in meditation, led in breathwork, led in Kundalini, discuss things with me. I mean, I don't know where this thing's going to go.
It's a perfect opportunity to play football.
You could play football. You're in a field.
Five-a-side set up or something. You could
play
manage.
five-a-side. I can manage. I've got, especially with my ankle injury.
There you go.
Come, the tickets are available. Links in the description. Come and see it. But I would like to play actually. Maybe that can be part of my transition. But I've got an ankle injury. I went running in the dark with the dog. Running in the dark is dangerous. I turned over my ankle. It hurt. It swelled up.
Bear saved you, did he?
He didn't give a shit.
No.
That's what I was. One of the biggest disappointment. Other than the bit when I rolled over my ankle, there was the rhythm of crying came out of me, as in this is the rhythm of the night. There was the rhythm of crying came out of me. This noise came out of me. Like I rolled over my ankle and I went oh, like that. Like, and I was alone in the field, and there's, it's weird, isn't it? Life, it'll just give you those moments where your face is in some grass and you're just laying there. Now these are the things I thought. Right, this is going to be a while for this is better. How am I going to get? I'm going to have to cancel my gym. I won't be able to do no Brazilian jiu-jitsu. My leg hurts. How am I going to get home? Then, it was like the feeling of wanting to get the shoe off my foot was very, very intense. When I saw on that Premier program when Alan Shearer got that knee injury, right. I identified very strongly with that moment. I was like, oh, that's what it's like. And then
I think his was a cruciate ligament damage.
Very serious. And also, of course, he's one of the greatest strikers the game has ever produced. And I am just a man in a field at this point. But what about when that physio goes, when they don't move much, something's up.
Yeah.
I didn't move much. If
You're not Alan Shearer.
I'm similar to him though, and if on the bench they would have gone, this is serious like that, and maybe Gary Lineker would have done that face he done when Gaza lost it.
Tears.
He'd have gone. Watch it. I didn't produce tears, by the way.
No.
I lay there for a while. Then
Just
I
the
hobbled
sound of
up.
them.
I rang my wife and I said, Laura, I've fallen. Now, I didn't like reporting that because that's an old person's trick, isn't it? They're falling. They're tumbling. They're dropping like autumnal leaves.
They do that.
That's what I done. Is that the beginning of the end for old
Yes.
Russ? And is it? I knew it was. And then now the ankle, can you trust it ever again?
Not for a while.
Have you ever had an ankle sprain, Jenga?
Yeah, loads of times.
Is it always the same ankle?
It has been. They're usually the right one.
Yes, my right.
It will take a few years.
Years, Jen. I've not got
Because you have to be
years.
careful when you're just walking around a bit confidently.
Yeah.
Because that's when it goes again.
I carried my baby down a slope, and
What kind of slope? What are you talking about slope? Why have you been on a slope with a dodgy ankle? Is this a ski slope? I'll be infuriated. She's my goddaughter.
who is your goddaughter? I was carrying her down a slope down to the town of Foy in Cornwall. I went on holiday. That's why
yeah.
I went on holiday to Cornwall, and I was going down the town of Cornwall, Foy, and it's down a slope. The whole town's down a slope. It's one of those towns.
It's the perfect destination.
Ankle injury. Come to Foy. It's made of staircases and slopes and ice rinks. Foy and banana skins dropped everywhere. Escalators. I mean, yeah. So I was going down the slope and I did it again. It was like a tease of the injury.
Right.
I did a semi-roll, like that, a little semi-roll. And I actually had to go down to the ground again.
It sounds like it's your ligaments.
Down I
It's
go.
not. If it goes again, it's ligaments because they're building them, they're knitting back together.
It is a Shearer injury.
See,
Yeah, if
ligaments.
it was bone, I don't think it would. You'd have the support of your ligaments.
I had an X-ray and an MRI. You should have seen me down Wexham Hospital. I was like Willy Wonka, mate. I was like on crutches. I was mucking about. I was laughing with the other people on crutches.
Who's that Willy Wonka?
Okay, yes, well, Willy Wonka was like that. He was
On
upbeat, wasn't
crutches.
he? Andy, what about when he pretended at the beginning to be all frail when he comes out and then he does that forward roll?
Oh, yeah.
Wonka.
Sure.
Classic Wonka. Oh, Wonka, you've done it again. Then he rolls forward. Welcome to the chocolate factory. In you come, guys.
What? You and Willy Wonka. You can't get enough of it, can you? Top of buses, hospitals. Where's it going to be next?
Well, my new brand of chocolate. It's called Pappy's Chocolate. There's nothing to worry about here. That's our motto. Nothing to worry about here. Pappy's Chocolate. It's vegan. Of course it is.
Of course it is.
I'm a vegan now. That's the
Disgusting.
factor that's revolting. No, you can get good vegan chocolate
Sure,
now.
of course you can.
Vegans, you can get good chocolate now. Vegans, you can get all right sausages now. Veganism, it's less cruel. There's kittens all over the bloody floor. Can you hear them? They're piping up. We've got to do our videos later.
Yeah.
Look, have you read enough? Have we done enough? Look, let me read one review to encourage people to leave reviews because we've got to get it up to 20,000. I told you, and we've only got about another 50 more. Russ, Gareth, Jenny May Finn says, Mr. McKay, what a well-crafted podcast. Mega content experience with football at its heart. Let's be having ya on the Ball City.
Crafted is a word I would probably not use to describe this podcast.
Certainly
but thank
not.
you, though.
I would love it. I would love it if it was well crafted.
I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
Nice reactions.
Well
Jim.
Thanks.
done, Jenny. That's
I've
actually one of the
tilted.
best ones.
I've tilted the colour box.
What do you mean? You pressed it so hard
No,
that you
it's
shook
facing
it.
me now rather than facing away from me.
That's the
It's
evolution.
not on the other side of the room anymore.
That's like the Arsene Wenger coming into Arsenal of our podcast. Well, then it was the day that I realised that I should just tilt it in my general direction so I can read it. That's it. That's
Yeah.
Jenny's revolution, being able to
Right.
see the colour box that cues up her audio.
Hey, you know what I thought this week, Russ?
Go on.
When watching that documentary, I'm not going to mention it again.
It's all right. It's
the
had a
name
big
of it.
impact. But
But
for you, this is like the biggest thing that's ever
It
happened.
was great.
It's
While I
like
was watching it,
becoming a father.
do you know what what I've realised by doing this podcast is that every time me and you can share loads of great things.
I know it's been
I
good
love
for
it.
our relationship.
It's been brilliant because I'll see something, I'll think, oh, send that
That's
to
all like
Russ. He'll
this.
enjoy
I'll send
that.
you things. Yeah,
Yeah.
look at that. You'll like this.
I was halfway through this and I thought, oh, he's going to absolutely be all over this. He is.
I saw that
All
you
over
posted it on our chat,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to watch this right now. Nothing gives me more pleasure than a football analysis documentary
Oh.
and the football culture.
And it's done well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very well done. I mean, there was that review in The Guardian that said we're bigging up Rupert Murdoch too much. And there is a lot of complexity between the capitalism and the commercial. Like, this is the problem that exists culturally. All things are a subset of free market capitalism, i.e. science. So, I mean, well, you can't criticise science. Science is objective. It's a subset of free market capitalism. It's not free of it. It's not beyond it. What's the problems with like everything? You can use that. What's happened with music? What's happened with entertainment? What's happened with commerce, environment? It's all because it's a subset. Only when adjacent and parallel systems are organised, said the man in a Dagenham Motors vintage West Ham top, will we have any chance of freedom? So like I've enjoyed that. Now there were international World Cup qualifiers. My interest has dipped so much. I didn't watch any of it.
It's interesting, isn't it? The difference in interest between qualifiers or Nations League and those kind of things.
I can't be bothered.
No, and actual tournaments. It's
Yeah.
like the massive drop-off, isn't it, of kind of interest. I mean, obviously, it's slightly different with England now in that I think people are really
There's the
behind
recent
this
excitement
team.
of the getting to the final. But don't you remember, like everyone hit us up with that, all the stuff afterwards. You know, this is
Yeah.
the thing that's an advantage. If you've been interested in football for a long time, and then you hear there was some violence, you go, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
course
what's
there was.
supposed to happen.
Well, that's what does happen.
You're not endorsing it. It's
No.
like you don't accept the full reality.
No, and also, you know, going back to the documentary, is that you saw what football was like in the 80s. You know, a big part of the start of that show was about this is what football was. This is how it was accepted. This is how it was thought of. People wrote about it in newspapers being like a slum game
sport.
played in slum
That's
stadiums.
anti-working class. That's
Yeah.
racist against working class people. What about the bit where they tried to do them cheerleaders and them sumo wrestlers?
Sky
What the fucking
Strikers.
hell is this? Like they hated it.
They
the fans,
hated
the
it.
fans have never liked that. There's that brilliant thing that David Squires sent us. That clip of like we're going to break the air guitar record. The only time like when I've been at West Ham and I've gone on the pitch, it's not wise to go on the pitch. Like even, you know what I mean? Like you're going to get abused. The only time, or two times actually, the time I went in the North Bank against Man City, that time when I kissed Allardyce and I went in with the fans when I was proper famous, that was a wicked experience. And around that time as well, I've been involved in that thing with that housing estate in East London. And like I walked past all the bubble machines and everything, and the chicken run give me a gentle round of cricket applause. Nice. And I thought, yes, I've made it. Then they did start to shout wanker. No, they didn't on that occasion. But like, you've got to accept this is a big volatile beast and they won't behave how you want. You can't go, oh, we're all going to have cheerleaders now, or we're going to have these sumo. They're like, you can't push this down our neck. This is that you're coming into an existing culture with its own values and its own creed.
Yeah, and fans can spot when these are silly little tricks that Sky were trying to push on them, and they didn't like it at all.
And did you see that in the background? I can't even remember. It might even have been Old Trafford. You'd know better than me. But there's all scaffolding everywhere. It looked like they were trying to emulate the glamour of the NFL.
Yeah.
It was like, look at all this scaffold and like some flats, and it just looked like shit.
Yeah.
Can't emulate it.
It's interesting. Look what it's become. But the point I was going to make at the very beginning of this was about Cantona only signed due to Dion Dublin getting injured. Do you know if you remember that? I thought,
Isn't it amazing?
I mean, obviously, all transfers and everything that happens, can change the course of history and all of those things. But that was very specific in that Dion Dublin was the big signing from, a big-ish signing from Cambridge. Came for $1 million, I think, something. And it was only because he got injured fairly early on in the season that Cantona signed, and then they won the league that year.
And even that was only because Leeds was ringing up about Dennis Irwin.
That's right.
I like that bit when it goes, look, we'll sell him for 1, but will you say it's 1.2? That's the sort of thing I do. Like, look, Russell, this relationship isn't working. I'm leaving you. Can you say that it was mutual? Like, say what you want, mate. Like, I just don't want to live with you anymore. Like, can you say it's 1.2? It's weird, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Their pride was involved in it. Yeah. Well, yeah, that in a way it shows you. Don't know. I tell you what I really liked is when Ferguson they goes, how are you going to manage him? Because like when you see that bit of footage of like Cantona doing that 2-footed tackle in someone's back, like that dude's next level, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like he was always going to do something like kick a fan. Like he's just got it in him. And I liked it that Ferguson. This is when I like the glimpse of Ferguson's greatness. He goes, I'll learn something from this.
Wow.
I'll learn something from this. That's like he obviously had that humility. He was porous. He knew how to treat different people.
I warmed to Ferguson actually because you're right. He became. He was a serial winner, and obviously, you heard a lot about how he was, how he managed his teams. He was, ruthless with his players, other than Cantona with that brilliant story. But you saw, a different side of him, and the point where he was under so much pressure. I remember a lot of people saying you could see in his expressions, you could see in his eyes that he knew that United needed to win the league,
or he's going to lose his job.
Or he doesn't lose his job. Yeah. So yeah, amazing. And I hated United as a Yorkshire lad growing up. A few of my mates supported United, and I hated the way that they won everything. But watching that, you just can't argue with it. You can't argue with the Cantona story, with Steve Bruce scoring those 2 goals against Sheffield Wednesday, Ferguson, the rise of United, which is going to lead on to Beckham and all those. I mean, it's an incredible story.
Even FC United, who have set up to protest the what they perceive as financial impropriety and the disingenuity of the reign of the Glazers, still love Manchester United.
Yeah.
There is much beauty to be had, and also because Man United aren't currently, the only teams like, I have a sort of historic thing with Tottenham Hotspur because of being a West Ham fan, and City because of their dominance, a little bit Chelsea. You know what I mean? Like sort of like other than that, and if you push me, I see the beauty in all of them. The point of it is that it's an access point for profound feelings of togetherness and love and community and belonging. Of course, that necessarily requires competition, adversity, failure, all of those shadow components. But that's sort of what I love about it. And I guess so when it's those documentaries, I'm all swept along with that stuff.
Me too. Well, we shall see whether there's a new era this weekend with Ronaldo. It's his first game back. Very interesting. Yeah,
it'll be interesting. We could have asked David Seaman about that, couldn't we? Like, do you think that he's going to have enough movement or whatever, and has he adapted his game sufficiently? But we'll wait and see, won't we? And like, I suppose to wrap up, we still ain't bought a football club. I see Grays Athletic.
Yeah.
I'm from Grays. There's something around that. But that is already fan owned. I don't know. Like what I want is for some supporters of a team that need help to go to us. Look, this is the team. You could help us. We need support. Then we could support them, because that's the thing, isn't it? You can't wade in and take over. You need to support something that's already existing.
Does any team or club need someone to come in and perform a Willy Wonka act?
You need a Wonka.
You do.
I said Wonka. Now remember. The talent is limited. You're not getting we're not like Sheikh Mohammed or whatever. No, it's not. Sadly, not. But like it's not the best. It's not like there's limitless funds.
No.
There's not
There are
any
no
funds.
funds.
There's no funds. All there is goodwill, good intentions,
And Willy Wonka.
Good Willy Wonka. If you need help and that help is stupid, then maybe we can provide that help to you. You could be a kids team. It doesn't matter. Like, you could be a particular type of team. You could be a walking team. You can be any gender. We don't care. We just want to help. That's all we want to do.
And sing.
Huh?
And sing.
We want to sing.
Yeah.
That's true. We want to help and we want to sing. Is that what we want?
Well, I don't know.
And make good dubious quality vegan chocolate. It's what I can't even remember my own slogan. Or I guess we should wrap this up. What do you think, Jen?
Yes, you should.
But we've covered things.
Yeah.
Review the show. Come and see me the weekend in the field. Tweet us. Use the hashtag football is nice, and tweet me at Rusty Rockets on Twitter. And that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So hope you enjoyed the show. And listen to David Seaman. What was it? Chatting with Seaman or Seaman Speaks?
Seaman says.
Seaman says. That's funny
good.
because of Simon says.
Yeah.
Is that a cat licking my foot?
Yeah.
That's what that is. There's a kitten trying to feed off the side of my anklet, of my bad anklet. It's trying to suck out the ligamental fluids that have come. It's actually quite nice. You know, like maybe you're on holiday in Thailand, you can dip your feet in a bucket of water
Fish.
and they'll have fish at you.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's strange.
I was recently in some water. Look, just noticed I have trouble letting go. And some fish nibbled my feet there. It was all right. Time to go?
I think so.
Thank you for listening.